But we're going to get into GundamFlame versus Sweep, and we're going to start off in Game 2. So a very, very quick recap of Game 1 was kind of like that noise Sottle just made, actually. Let me recap.
Carry on.
In Game 1, it was GundamFlame on the Aggro Rogue versus the Warlock, the Reno Warlock from Sweep.
Yep.
And Sweep got down Doomsayer on turn 2, which was answered by GundamFlame and kept his board of early game Pirates, but also had Kazakus and Reno as well. So to sum up, GundamFlame got very close, but having the key cards in the matchup made Sweep go 1-0. So this is Game 2, Mage on Mage, but Reno from Sweep versus Tempo Mage from GundamFlame.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't figured out quite what my slightly derisive laugh was about, Arcane Blast Kazakus Reno is your opening hand against the aggressive Tempo Mage from GundamFlame. Yeah, answers on a postcard, guys, who you think is going to win this game. But let's give a little bit of background here. GundamFlame, actually a player I'm very, very excited to watch. I followed him all the way back from, I English cast the Japan Championships that he qualified through to HCT from online. Was really, really impressed with his ability primarily to play aggro.
Yeah.
He was really like picking great turns to disrespect even key minions like Fandrels and Emperors, just going face, ending the game. So no surprise, GundamFlame is packing the quad aggro lineup here. But he is a game down to Sweep, who we followed in the previous series that we brought you, as he defeated a Handsome Guy, quite handsomely, one could say.
Yeah, 100%. And the difference really in the lineup from GundamFlame and Handsome Guy is just that he didn't have the Tempo Mage and had the Reno lock, sort of in that quad aggro, so it's like tri-aggro plus Reno.
Yeah.
So the lineup's kind of similar, and as you said, Sweep actually beat out Handsome Guy, so it is obviously, moving on in the game now, we just thought we'd give you some background before we got into the nitty-gritty here. But it's kind of a cool card as well, Novice Engineer. Playing the cycle, slightly more cycle heavy. We didn't see that in the last series, but this is the second series straight we've cast Sweep as well. So holding onto the board here a little bit, the freeze coming down there, just to try and slow down this water elemental. It's definitely one of the minions that can cause some of the most havoc in any matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, not a huge potion for Sweep though. The Kazakus in the opening hand alongside the Reno. I mean, the Reno is going to be a big deal later on, but his Kazakus did kind of just whiff there. Freeze 2, Revive 2, and the Revive 2, just these kind of inconsequential minions, the 3-3 and the 1-1. Kind of just gives GundamFlame a window here. If he can find like a big turn 7 to turn 8 kind of situation where he has a big board and he's threatening damage, maybe he can beat Reno in this game, and maybe I've counted him out too soon in this matchup. Tempo Mage is a very explosive deck that can put a thing or two together here, but this turn is not looking too sparkly here. Acolyte of Pain and Ping looks like the best you got, and he's going to go ahead and ping the 1-1 here, I guess, reducing the chance for that to go into his 3-2. Yeah, he's going to, all right, change his mind, going to go for the card draw here. This was my initial instinct. When he hovered over the 1-1, I can kind of see the merit in that, but I think you just want to peel through your deck and make sure you're picking up enough burn and mid-range minions to be able to force this game out.
Yeah, and even though the minions that were summoned or resurrected for Sweep were small, when you combine that with Blizzard, one from the book, one from the deck, and now Flame Strike, Sweep can just clear this board for the rest of the game, you would almost assume at this point, or at least slow it down enough. So now the Flame Waker into Thanos, and more than likely, there we go, the 4 damage arcane missiles with a +2, some shotgun effects from the Flame Waker gonna help. Actually, yeah, there we go, clear the board up, so this is nice, but Flame Strike.
But Flame Strike, yeah. There was 4 health on board, he had 6 shots, so actually slightly fortunate to be able to clear that up, but the Flame Strike makes it all fairly irrelevant. He can now develop Bully on an empty board though, which is a great spot to be in with an Antonidas to come later in the deck, and just more coins, being able to make big tempo plays later on, potentially. Having lots of coins and therefore lots of mana.
Having lots of coin is a great way to live.
Having lots of coins and therefore lots of mana available to you is going to be one good way to potentially set up that kind of situation in the late game, where you're threatening lethal and building a board to try and mitigate the Reno Jackson effect.
Especially because the follow-up draws were Arcane Intellect to cycle even more, and the Flame Waker, which we've already seen one die, but Flame Waker is one of the cards that you have like that snap turn and almost flip the board back in your favor at this point, but nothing too threatening on Sweep side, although he does have a reasonable amount of cards and some of the power plays in there. Still a Blizzard, and bear in mind as well, he played the Blizzard from his deck and not the one from the Babbling Book. So that is still, as far as GundamFlame's concerned, a mystery card at this point.
Yeah, which is the correct way to go about it in like 99% of situations. There's a few niche situations where the random one might be more beneficial, but definitely agree with that decision. It looks like he's going to remove the opportunity of multi-draws from the Flamewaker and just go straight back to the well. Remove the multi-draws from the Acolyte and just go straight back to the well with the Flamewaker.
Don't make me live in a world where Flamewaker draws cards, so that would be a very scary place to live. GundamFlame's got a lot of burn available with double Fireball, the Firelands Portal, and now even the second Water Elemental is going to have some potential to stack up that damage. But Sweep's not exactly low on options himself either. This is, from what looks like a horrendous opening for GundamFlame, this is actually looking pretty even so far.
Shadowpan is a good hit off the Firelands as well, and now he's picked up Pyro. He has Ice Block in hand, he has Antonidas in hand, and he has the Reno, so he can almost start thinking Freeze Mage in this situation. He can try and set himself up for a number of turns to end the game.
Yeah, he's definitely got a long-term plan at least. And GundamFlame's just got a lot of damage though, so it's going to be managing the sort of the post-Reno damage as TJ would like to
Face!
What? Oh! I mean, look, if you can go face into Stranglethorn Tiger, I'm with that play. And we sort of discussed briefly earlier that GundamFlame is just an aggressive player in general. Not a surprise he brings a quad aggro lineup at all if you've ever seen him play anything before. But that was brave even for him, I think.
And this is huge. I mean, I can understand the question GundamFlame is asking there. It's the kind of thing I've been talking about for the last few turns, where he say, hey, I still have this huge board, I have mirror images protecting me from the onboard trades, and I'm setting up lethal now with this double Fireball in hand. Do you have a Reno and a way to clear this board? The problem is that Sweep was able to just kind of change the equation there and just say, I don't need to Reno right now because I have the Ice Block to go along with my Blizzard. And that really shuts down this whole double Fireball plan now for GundamFlame, because if he commits that much to popping this block and then Reno comes down, he's 100% lost this game. And sometimes there's situations in games where you're just never beating the card Reno Jackson anyway, so you just commit. But I think with GundamFlame's hand here, Barnes in his hand, Antonidas and Rag still to come out potentially, he might still feel he can beat a Reno. So we're going to see him not go for the block pop here, which is a very, very deliberate decision here because he thinks this gives him better percentage against a Reno Jackson in hand.
Yeah, and also as well, in this matchup specifically for the Reno Mage, so for Sweep, you don't mind the block being procced into Reno. A lot of the time in some other matchups, you're more bothered about trying to Reno before the block, so it kind of, you let yourself go really low, then gain all your life back, and you still have the, the emergency ice block. But in this matchup, it's normally, if you get the Reno off and you've got like a secure-ish board, you actually just steamroll from there and don't really let the Tempo Mage get back onto the board again. But even this Stranglethorn Tiger is going to get some work done. Just the fact that it's stealth is actually huge.
So Sweep now does have the potential to set up a lethal situation of his own of sorts. He can actually start thinking about being aggressive here, potentially. If he just does play that Reno, almost a kind of tempo Reno in this situation, just to gain the 18, if he pushes the 6 damage he has on board to face already, 17 is a magic number for his hand right now, because he can get a Fireball from Antonidas, and then use that plus the Pyroblast to end the game. Potential setup that will take him 3 turns or so, but with the Reno bringing him back to full and the Ice Block still in play, that's 3 turns that he probably had.
Yeah, especially because he has minions, right? Plus Reno as well. I mean, GundamFlame can be like, okay, all burn now. But like you said, he's on quite a low amount of health, so he's probably, GundamFlame's going to try and look, or you'd imagine he's going to try and look for some like nice trades or, strong removal to try and slow this attack down from Sweep. But Polymorph coming out there, and there's Ragnaros. It's definitely going to help.
It helps. It's actually one of the big outcomes from the Barnes removed from his deck, though, which is kind of a big deal. The Rag is for sure a nice pickup, though, in terms of being able to restabilize the game after Reno hits. And GundamFlame now has to reevaluate because he probably recognizes the race situation. The double face attack is a little bit strange in that situation for the deck that's primarily playing the control role in this matchup. So he smells that he's now on a clock. So he's going to be looking now for some efficient way to break through here himself and end the game.
Yeah, look how Imagine Antivirus from that Barnes.
Yeah.
It could have been coin, coin, fireball, fireball.
You're correct, yeah.
Which would have
Maths
been
checks
an
out.
absolutely crazy turn. But as your Drake, not too shabby. Definitely not the best card you can get, but as you said, with Ragnaros already gone, your options are limited, and the spell damage does help. Here comes Antonidas for sweep, though. Along with the Arcane Intellect, start getting together some damage. And as you said, this is hitting boiling point now, as GundamFlame does not have the same kind of defensive capabilities that the Reno Mage of Sweep has.
Yeah, this pretty much gives Sweep auto from this position, I believe. The 2 guaranteed turns that he will have from here are enough to go Fireball, Ping, and Pyroblast. Basically, GundamFlame here has to find a way to kill the Antonidas because it just represents lethal on board if it stays alive, and pop the block. That's the only way he can deny an automatic win for Sweep from this position.
Yeah.
And can he do that? Fireballing the Antonidas and dropping Rag is the best play, I think, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, you pretty much have to at that point, and he did see that there's 1 fireball guaranteed because the Arcane Intellect was played with the Antonidas,
Yeah.
so he knows there's at minimum a fireball in hand, at minimum. But Sweep has been holding on to a few cards as well that could well be burned. Fireball
This is weird.
to face. Okay, so what's the play to deal with the Antonidas?
He's going to go coin, coin, Rag. He's kind of just done this in reverse order. It's inefficient in terms of damage, and it gives him a 50-50 of just lethal being left on board. This play confuses me. It doesn't actually matter in the long run, because Sweep has the auto situation regardless. So now Pyroblast into Fireball Ping will end the game either way, but strange option from GundamFlame after I've just set him up as being such an incredibly effective aggro player, but at least it didn't cost him too much in the long run.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. He could have just fireballed the Antonidas, and if the Rag hit face, then it didn't kill the Antonidas. Like you said, he just loses straight off the bat, where he could have guaranteed him to survive on board at least, because obviously we knew the Pyroblast was knocking around. So Sweep looks like he's going to move up into a 2-0 lead here. The block obviously procced, and the fireball finishing this game along with a ping. So Sweep going 2-0 up versus GundamFlame. And just a quick look at some of the other results from these players. Sweep in every series he's played so far is 3-2 in every single series, whereas GundamFlame has gone 3-1, 3-0, 3-1.
Okay.
So this is the first time GundamFlame in this whole Swiss has actually gone down two games in a match. So it's kind of a flipping the table in terms of fortune for these players.
Yeah, and with the lineup that GundamFlame has, he's probably just had a lot of downtime this tournament so far, just waiting for the other Swiss rounds to complete. 3-0, 3-1, or those kind of results with fast decks. He's just had his feet up for large periods, and this is the first time he's really being dragged to the absolute limit by Sweep, who is who's just leaving a trail of bodies in his wake so far.
Yeah, and bear in mind this is round 4 of the Swiss as well. So there are 7 rounds total that we're going through all of today, and there's something to think about in terms of playing a quad aggro lineup, because it means your games are normally quicker in general, which means you can just like rest up a bit more between your matches and between the rounds. We are moving on, of course, to game 3. Sweep's now going for his Pirate Warrior versus GundamFlame's Rogue.
Yeah, speaking of quick, this one is not going to hang around. This is the massively aggressive Rogue, the deck that really evolved out of Miracle Rogue over time just to be much more aggressive, really leverage those Cold Bloods, using various cards like Zarul and Swashbuckler just to be a kind of engine for you to keep you high on resources, curve out as aggressively as you can and try and beat up the control decks fast and out-tempo the other aggressive decks with tools like Backstab, SI7 Agent. Shadow Step picked up a little bit too early though, but Rogue, when you get Small-Time Buccaneer, it's probably the best turn 2 hero power in the game when you've curved out with turn 1 Small-Time Buck. So no harm in GundamFlame just slowing down for 1 turn.
Yeah, the fact that you just guarantee a weapon is actually gigantic, but Sweep still looking okay-ish. Has drawn patches, of course. The Core Chron Elites can actually get some a huge amount of work done, as a minion in a vacuum in itself. But he's going to have to make sure he can get them down at least relatively safely to get some instant value from them, because we can see Backstab obviously with the hero power clears run up quite easily for GundamFlame.
So Coin Corkron coming out here from Sweep. I imagine GundamFlame's initial reaction here will just be dropping the Zarul and using Backstab. Probably trading with the patches, because taking 8 from a Corcoran seems like a nice way to lose to Pirate Warrior. And that 1/1 patches is not representing too much value. I believe that's draw a card from the Toxin. So yeah, sure, we're going to see the backstab, and 99% confident that we'll see the patches trade, just to value the race potential here.
There's a chance he patches face for 1 and then shadow steps patches. Just ready for the trade afterwards.
That is a legal Hearthstone play that could have been made that turn.
Well, he's going to hold on to the shadow step. Values it a little bit higher than just getting 1 damage to face. But also good to note in this game as well, because of the Finley coming down for sweep, it's a very honest game between both heroes here, because there's no armor gain for the warrior. The rogue doesn't run any heal, so it's pretty much damage permanence at this point.
Draw a card of this and Cold Blood? Potentially no, he's going to go SI7 here. Interesting. Still with the Cold Blood, but he's going to use the dagger to take it out, so he is allowing the race just to be pushed back onto him a little bit by taking the 4 damage there, but still, extra minion in play and still the Cold Blood being pushed is huge, yeah.
Yeah, now patches in hand is going to get some work done on this side of the board. Going to allow a ping plus patches, and you see the value of Finley as well in this deck and how flexible some of the other hero powers are, because in a normal world there would have had to have been a bigger minion available or the deck hand going for the trade there, because otherwise you're normally tanking that kind of damage with your weapon as the warrior, and when you don't have the armor up, that's kind of huge.
Naga Corsair picked up, so just redagger and drop the 5/4 here for the buff is definitely a possibility. Really, really getting close in terms of just ending this game out. But he's going to go Swashbuckler, picks up a N'Zoth's first mate, which is not a great deal of use to Rogue. It is a little bit of tempo in terms of a 1/3 dagger for 1 mana as opposed to a 1/2 for 2 that you usually get. So you are accelerating your damage a little bit, and it actually pairs really nicely with that Naga Corsair in the end.
Yeah, that kind of just worked out pretty well for GundamFlame, just giving Sweep a taste of the Pirate Warrior medicine himself, and still the Eviscerate available and the Fire Bloom Toxin.
Yep.
Yes, got him. For additional damage, and if a charge minion does get drawn for Gundam, the Shadow Step's just going to be that extra bit of burst as well. So the Flames actually put himself in a pretty strong position minion-wise. The Corsair's going to be nice to soak up some damage, but this is... there we go. Yeah, that's just going to be game. Okay,
it was already good enough before the Leroy, I believe. Didn't even need it. And Sweep does not hang around. I told you that game would be done in the blink of an eye. Yes, it was. And GundamFlame gets himself onto the board.
Yeah, and games like that go very quickly as well when the hero powers change for the warrior, right? There's not really a lot to think about. You can start counting damage turns in advance to work out exactly what's going to go on there. So GundamFlame does get a win. So it's not going to be a 3-0. At this point, but Sweep, I think, is still looking strong. I think his lineup and the lineup we sort of, or at least I expected from a lot of players, is the sort of 2 Reno, 2 aggro decks.
Right. Yeah.
It is just so well-rounded overall. It can pretty much take down anything. I think that's actually going to be the strength of Sweep going forward in the rest of the Swiss as well.
Yeah, and it's been growing in success and growing in popularity since all the way back in the EU playoffs, where Pavel had success with it.
Yep.
And now being represented by 37% of the competitors in this tournament. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a large number, but when we're not talking about a deck, we're talking about
an entire
lineup.
Right. Yeah.
That's, there's a lot of decks you can bring, in a lot of styles, but that is a large portion of this player base in this tournament, bringing this lineup. And moving on to game 4, Sweep, of course, on his Pirate Warriors. It's the only deck he's got left to win with. And GundamFlame back onto the Tempo Mage. What do you make of this matchup? It's not one that really pops up too often.
It's not. The Mage needs to swing early, a lot earlier than they are sometimes comfortable with. Normally, Tempo Mage is just the most frustrating name for a deck I've ever encountered in my life. But as time has gone on, this deck originated and you just played Zombie Chow on turn 1 and tried to curve out to Dr. Boom on turn 7. That was the original Tempo Mage. That was a tempo deck. This is a much more combo-focused deck where you're trying to string various things together. And usually, Tempo Mage likes to relax for almost 2 or 3 turns and then try and explode around turn 4, turn 5 and really make a board grab there. If you wait that long against Pirate Warrior, that's probably just too much damage already and you're going to lose. So they have to swing early with things like Mirror Image, with things like Flame Waker Coin Arcane Missiles, the combination that we see already in hand. But overall, the Pirate Warrior can just get the job done quite often just by running the Mage over, because the Mage, fairly linear, much like a Rogue in this sense, where 0 healing, very little taunt, only the Mirror Images to protect themselves. that the game plan is just very ABC for the Pirate Warrior. You know what the goal is, just watch that number tick down until they explode.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest and early swing turns they can do, or power plays, is the Sorcerer's Apprentice into Mirror Image early, and then build on that, because more often than not, the Pirate Warrior cannot kill the Sorcerer's Apprentice through the 2 taunts that early in the game. But looking at this, Frothing Berserker and the Kor'kron Elite sticking to the board is just starting to stack up to almost critical mass here. There are options this turn. There's Torch, Coin, Ping onto the Frothing if he wants to get rid of that, or just goes for straight up Fireball. That's going to be GundamFlame's preference, but I believe with the Flame Waker in hand, you're probably just looking at a Fireball this turn, and then try and combine the coin with more spells next turn to try and get it clear on that Kor'kron.
Yeah, it's not a great looking hand. Sweep can keep on coming for quite a long time here, and GundamFlame's hand is just a little bit clunky to tie together, but that Frothing is public enemy #1 right now. Having that thing on board is isolating that Flame Waker in his hand. It's just making that way too risky to make any kind of play, just because of the massive amount of damage that would come his way if it goes wrong. So I think we just have to fireball that thing down this turn, and yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
In situations like this, there's always a small voice in my head that's like, if you get the Water Elemental down, then you could lock the game out going forward. Whenever I've tried it, I've just died.
Raymond,
so
that voice is an idiot, and
that's what I just said.
You should listen to it less, both in Hearthstone and in life.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the old life advice. So I'll take it on board and do my best, but no promises. But this is looking very, very difficult. I feel like Sweep's always 1 minion ahead on the board, just got like one more level of pressure that GundamFlame can't quite deal with.
Going Mana Worm here, trying to make a grab back, and GundamFlame will be very sad if it's the Tempo Mage that lets him down here. He's already lost 1 game with it. It's not looking too promising in a second right now, and he loves this deck. I think any time I have seen GundamFlame playing a competitive tournament, he has had Tempo Mage in his lineup. He really, really enjoys playing this deck, so no surprise to see him going with that quad aggro lineup that came out mostly, again, in Europe playoffs, where people brought it to great success. Green Sheep as well, although he went with the more mid-rangey Shaman, really brought that lineup into the public eye. So GundamFlame will be wanting his pet deck, the Tempo Mage, to succeed here, but it is looking like it's going to fall flat on its face here. Leroy in hand is just representing so much more burst damage. Mirror Image picked up. Is that going to be good enough? Flame Waker, Coin, Mirror Image, but it's probably going to be the missiles here from GundamFlame just to try and get a maximum clear on the board. He doesn't know that Leroy is ready and waiting, and these missiles need to be absolutely perfect.
Okay, so he gets 2 down, but not going to be enough, and that is going to be the game, and that was going to be always going to be difficult as well, because GundamFlame didn't at any real point get any pressure. You saw up until those missiles, he took 0 damage, so even if the board was cleared, there's a lot of burn already gone from GundamFlame there, so Sweep does take that match, and he's looking really good going into round 5.
His results are looking fantastic, yeah, and like that matchup that you just saw right there is kind of where the misnomer of Tempo Mage comes into play. If it was a real tempo deck that was fighting for the board aggressively from turn 1, turn 2, maybe it can stave off Pirate Warrior without taking that much damage. If you're a swing deck, which is essentially what Tempo Mage is, it just takes too long. You just take too much of a beating. If they ever draw Leroy, if they ever draw their Mortal Strikes, you're probably just going to be in range for too much of the game. It's just going to fall apart. But yeah, I mean, Sweep is just sweeping everyone aside right now. And GundamFlame, I've been rooting for him. I think he's Lothar's pick on the board. So
I'm very sad right now.
yeah, so